And we are back. Gmac Winnie coming at you with another edition of the Outlaw Blitz podcast. Big fella, we are definitely getting dangerous today.
We are brought in by your namesake today.
Yeah, pretty much. But the reason I came in with that particular song was he was canceled over that song.
Now,
in a way,
and this and for people who have been listening, coming up to this episode, we said it was going to be a different format than regular. Cancel culture.
Cancel culture just can't. I think canceled, quote unquote, before the term was coined in the late the 2019, 2020, whatever.
Right.
During that, I think Me Too movement kind of started the cancel culture thing. Woke. But before that, there's always been people trying to cancel something they don't like that doesn't agree with their particular set of thoughts, priorities, whatever. Right. So it's like, I don't like the New York Jets, so we try to get rid of the New York. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's...
And that's the funny thing, is George Michael really canceled?
No.
Right.
No, but here's the thing. No, I get it.
It's people...
But at that time frame, he went from being everywhere to being nowhere real quick.
on him quick.
Right.
And that's, a lot of the stuff that I got into today, because we said we wanted to research a little bit before we did the episode, and I'm glad we did. It's formed this view of cancel culture for me. 90% is absolute horseshit. It's somebody's opinion because they have a fucking hard-on for something or someone,
mm-hmm.
and they're totally impressing their viewpoint on the rest of the world, and they're not wrong.
Right.
God, they can't be wrong. They're 100% right, and that's how they feel. And then there's a legitimate 10% when there is a real scumbag out in the world that needs to go away for a legitimate reason.
Listen, I get it when you have hate speech, like true hate speech.
Right. People
trying to rally up and cause harm to, not busting balls like it's Alabama and Auburn and you're like, oh, we're going to burn down Alabama. No, I'm not saying that.
Right.
What I'm saying is when you're getting people that are trying to, redo the Holocaust or some dumb shit where you're talking about genocide or things that are, riot forming. I get
detrimental and evil.
Right. I get taking the voice away from silencing that type of thing.
Sure.
Hey, 99.9% of society isn't going to benefit from what this person is trying to cause.
Right.
And that makes sense. But
the one that really started to get it in perspective and led me down a rabbit hole of watching different cancel culture things, that they tried to cancel Jimmy Fallon because 15 years ago he did a skit of Chris Rock in blackface.
Yeah. Yep.
Chris Rock loved it. Thought it was hysterical. Jimmy Fallon is a comedian.
Well, so when we first started this conversation, I was going to say a lot of this stuff affects performers,
right,
and artists,
right,
musicians, writers, movies, actors,
right,
painters. It doesn't. That's what the canceling stuff kind of is.
Cancel Bob Ross. that was a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Where you get so then. I don't want to keep saying cancel, but that's the idea behind why we want to talk about this. And what really sprung this off was I told you to go up and look up RFK Jr.
Right.
What did you think?
Jacked.
He is jacked.
Yeah. Phenomenal
but,
shape.
and this can spin a million different ways because ultimately I think you're going to see him get canceled, so to speak. They're going to silence him. Through when you watch some of his videos, what's your opinion?
I think he is very middle of the road. I think he wants to do what's best for the majority. And I think because he doesn't fall in line with the current wave of shit, he's in danger.
Yeah, he'll never see that that side of the political coin
That
is
light of
so
day,
far
right?
so far removed
Right.
into this. Everybody must be stopped if they don't agree with our exact. That's like some, that's like some really heavy shit that you're gonna do.
Right.
So I saw an interview I watched an interview with him last night, and he said, "Listen, I have more." He goes, "I don't go out there and get into this stuff. I have more skeletons in the closet than everybody.
Oh,
I lived a life."
he's a Kennedy,
Right.
You
He goes,
know,
"I lived a life, and I lived it." He
right,
goes, and what that means is there's a million skeletons in my closet. He goes, "It is what it is. I lived a life. I'm not out here trying to throw, stones at glass houses here. Like, I get it."
right.
Um, but he's never gonna get the opportunity.
No,
He's never gonna get the opportunity, and I think he's got a very good message. And if he doesn't get the opportunity, I'd love to see him be Trump's vice president.
yeah,
I mean, that's crazy, but
Trump and a Kennedy.
just saying.
No, I know, and that's the thing. I mean, who in this world currently are there attempts being made to cancel more than Donald Trump?
Well, they've been trying since before he
Right,
even became a president.
right. And this man has. If there's truly somebody that can't be silenced, it's going to be him.
Well, you know what I think it is? I think his attitude doesn't allow it.
Right.
You remember like the leaked audio of just grab him by the pussy?
Yeah.
He just like laughed it off. So well, it's locker room talk. And I think that's it. You're not going to shame me into following your line of thinking.
Right.
Like, so what? You don't like it? Too fucking bad. You don't
Right.
like it.
Yeah.
I don't care what you like or don't like.
Right. And the one skit I saw, and it was very well done, and I think I actually even sent it to you on TikTok. It was a girl, probably early 20s, playing both sides. Says, "Well, where do you stand on LGBTQ?" "Oh, I'm for it." "Well, what about this? What about this tweet from 2012? I was 11. "Yeah, but there you said you thought gay people were weird." "Yeah, I was 11, and I was in a household where they were very church going, and it wasn't accepted. It wasn't accepted by the church. But I've since grown up and become my own person, and I feel differently, and that's how I feel now. So I apologize for that tweet. But again, I was 11. Yeah, but you said it, so you're canceled."
Well, that's the line that's the way they think,
Right.
right? Like
People, and her whole thing is she came back and talked, and another one saying too, it's like people aren't allowed to improve themselves or apologize or change their way of thinking ever. If you've said it, that's what you mean, and that's what you'll always mean, and you're canceled.
well, exactly. And there's a lot of this when you look back at it, and it annoys me when I look back at what they've done and tried to do. You're going back like a big one that really hit me was the Dr. Seuss's books.
Right.
The what I saw on Mulberry Street. You go back to what was acceptable in the 90s may not be acceptable today.
Listen,
So you're going to go back but we're going back. We're ripping monuments out of the ground from the 1800s when we're talking like you don't even know what it was like back then. But you're going to you're going to rip something out of the ground based on what you feel today. That makes no sense.
and you're going to replace it with a monument of George Floyd.
Or you're going to replace it with a trans say Caitlyn Jenner.
Right.
So that's acceptable today. To who? Who's that acceptable to? You know what I mean? I just
Right.
I don't understand.
And again, that's not our viewpoint. I have no problem with Caitlyn Jenner. I'm sure you don't either.
No.
But it's the point of you're going to force your way of thinking onto the rest of the world, and we're all wrong if we didn't like it.
Right. So in 40 years when somebody says absolutely, the world turns back the other way, now what? My voice isn't being heard again. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I think the modern version of it really kind of kicked off with the Me Too stuff.
Right. And,
Everybody had a story. It was magical. Every one of them everybody had a Me Too story until it was a guy. Terry Crews came out with his Me Too story.
Oh, shit. I forgot about Terry Crews.
And everybody was like, what are you doing? Remember? And they're like, there's no way a muscle-bound guy like that was ever raped or whatever, sexually assaulted
Right.
in the Hollywood world. And Terry Crews came forward and they tried to shut him up. Then all of a sudden, it was exclusive. He couldn't have a Me Too moment.
Right.
And that's where it gets scary because
you've got to fit the narrative.
Right.
If you don't fit the narrative, you're next, essentially.
Right. And in that time frame, Louis C.K. was a comedian, and they canceled
big
him.
Time, huge.
He was like one of the first.
You're a big Louis C.K. fan,
and he was one of the first ones. And you know what he kind of was like? Fuck you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then comedians, who I think are I think comedians have their thumb on the pulse the best.
We touched on this on our comedians episode.
Yeah.
And we talked about getting back to that and comedians getting back to those days. But there is such a danger of all of this internet bullshit.
Well, they were until they kind of all collectively
got together,
said, fuck off.
Right.
We're not doing that.
I'm a comedian. I am telling you, before I even give my act, this is entertainment. This is to make you laugh. If you take this seriously, that's on you.
Well, it's also trying to show somebody this is how you accept this stuff that's going on in the world.
Right.
You know what I mean? When they all did that to Louis C.K., and it cost him a lot of money because he had specials and all these things out that were then shut off. But when they did that to him, what undid him was his friends.
Mm-hmm.
It was Joe Rogan. It was Tom Segura. It was Joey D. Whoever had podcasts, this format started to undo the woke cancel culture. You're not going to do that. Okay. And then he got out there and then people started buying tickets to his shows and things started turning, you know what I mean? Turning back around.
Yeah. And that's in an aspect, fuck them even more so because now you tried. And while you may have temporarily won that battle,
right,
he's going to win that war.
Yeah.
So you just put more money in his pocket. So you know what? At the end of the day, cool. Thanks for helping out, Louis C.K.
Yeah. And so what's funny about these things, about these wars, and that's what they are. It's essentially a war on things I don't like to hear.
Right.
Or things I don't like to, I disagree with, right?
Right.
So Louis C.K. was a big one. And a lot of it involves sexual stuff.
Yeah.
The Me Too movement was a lot of, I was sexually assaulted or sexually harassed or sexually whatever.
Right.
And then remember, then the LGBTQ community got in it and it was Kevin Spacey.
Right.
And Kevin Spacey probably really never fed into it. Whether he's an openly gay guy or he isn't, he's just like, bullshit, never happened. And you kind of never heard about it. But it's the people that tried to... they even went after people that championed for them. J.K. Rowling writes one of the most successful, probably the most successful book series in the world.
Yep.
Ever. I don't know ever, but I bet you it's pretty damn close. It's probably one of the top 10 all-time book series ever written. Sales-wise and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And if you watch the movies or if you read the books, you get to the end and, she'd always have these Q&As for all these books. So when the series is all done, they're kind of like, does Dumbledore, who's like the best wizard of all time, does Dumbledore, did he ever have a love interest? And he's like, yeah, but Dumbledore was gay.
Mm-hmm.
And people lost their minds. So here you're You're saying you have an openly gay. Here's a gay character who is in love with one, not Voldemort, but the worst guy before him,
Right.
and that's why he could never fight him because they had like a love blood bond.
Right.
Until he finally had to face him.
Right.
But that was the love of his life. And then you cancel her for saying a woman is a woman and not a man can't, a trans man isn't considered a woman.
Right.
They went after her who was championing in her writing, in her world,
yeah.
and in her words for the gay community, and then they fucking went after her. And then you know how that bounced back? How'd cancel culture do? You got Google up or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm looking at, honestly, it was the next one I was going to touch on, but keep going.
I was going to say, can you look up I'm trying to see how many Hogwarts Legacy games were sold.
Oh, shoot.
What would I say? Hogwarts Legacy sales?
Yeah, sales to date.
Sales figures. Over $1 billion worth of game. That game was sold, and they tried to cancel that game. There was like active campaigns on, out in the social media and the internet world that were trying to cancel that game, and over $1 billion in sales were pretty much like, fuck you. Have you seen? Did I send you the thing with John Goodman? He's talking to Mark Wahlberg in a movie. It's a line from a movie.
No.
He goes, "You get up 2.5." It's basically, I'm paraphrasing. I don't know the exact thing.
Yeah.
John Goodman in the only way John Goodman can. Mark Wahlberg's sitting there and he's kind of like, just listen to this guy talk. And he goes, "You get up $2.5 million. You buy yourself a house with a 25-year roof, a Japanese ship box that'll last a long time." He goes, "And you come from the position of fuck you."
Huh.
He goes, "You don't like me? Blow me. Fuck you." He goes, "You don't want to come to work today? Nah, fuck you." He goes, America runs on the power of fuck you."
Yeah.
And when you have the ability to say it, who gives a shit? Fuck you, and you move on.
Yeah.
And that's what kills this bullshit. Donald Trump comes from a position of fuck you. Kennedy will ultimately come from a position of fuck you. Because they told him, you're not running. There's not a thing. That's, you know what I mean?
Right.
And he's like, fuck you, I am running.
Right.
And now he's gaining all these points. And his campaign only raised to date $4 million. People think it's like $100 million. $4 million. That's not a lot of money.
It's not.
It's not. In that world, that's not a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think the guy could be. I really do. I think the guy could be a uniter, not a divider.
Right, and that's
And he's only in his 60s, where the other two guys are in their 70s.
Yeah.
One will be 80.
Yeah.
No, he is 80, I think, right? He is 80.
Is he that old now?
Yeah, he'll be 85 if he wins re-election.
Holy shit!
By the time the term ends. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
Ellen DeGeneres, another one.
Got canceled.
Right, because I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. Does that make her a bad person?
So the community canceled her?
Smashed her because she was at I think they said it was a Packers and Cowboys game, I believe.
Yep.
Yep, Cowboys and Packers. She was shown on TV sitting with her wife, Portia de Rossi, next to George Bush.
Yeah.
And
I remember that game.
And they canceled. Well, her show went off after 19 years, but all of a sudden she was public enemy number one because, oh my God, you're friends with him,
right? And then the smear campaign starts.
Right, it does immediately.
So, going back to RFK for a second, he's starting to gain so much ground. Now the smear campaign comes out. Oh, this is when he said people should be silenced. This is when he said this should happen.
Of course.
So then, right, and then they put all their effort into just like, I don't like what this person's saying. I'm gonna do everything I can to shut him up any way we can.
And rarely are those comments ever taken in context.
Right.
They're taken.
It's a snippet of something else that was said.
Right. Taken and molded to promote their narrative.
Correct.
And again, when you have, and it's saying it, you need to almost have that financial backing and the ability, like Trump, like RFK Jr.
Well, he may be.
Hopefully. That
Oh, Louis
has
C.K.
that
I'm
has
sure he's made his millions
right,
over his
but
years.
they have the financial ability to withstand that and get their voice back out there to say, like you just said, "Fuck you." Who are
Right.
you?
Right. You got to come from a position of I
Right.
don't. Right.
Prove me. Prove me wrong. Prove that I'm that way. Maybe I did make a comment. Maybe it was on a bad day.
Right.
We're all entitled. We're human. But God forbid, 18 years ago in a fucking AOL online chat, you said something that today would be considered off color. Because how much has just TV and movies changed in the last 20 years?
Right.
Stuff that was on TV then could never be on TV now.
Or stuff that's on TV now would have never made it back then.
Right.
Like how much, like of the sex and stuff that's on TV now.
Right.
That wasn't a no way would that be on TV back then.
I'm watching.
So here's I didn't mean to cut you off. What the point I was making with that is
right.
people in like the very Christian faith that are very Christian and that style, that lifestyle and all that's in their face constantly now.
It is. And even worse, and more so because back then it used to be you couldn't say, we all know about George Carlin's lawsuit with the words you can't say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's words you can say, but it used to be not before 10 p.m.
Right.
Then it was before 9 p.m. Now, if you're watching something at 8:30 at night, you may hear fuck, dick.
Right.
It doesn't matter anymore. It's weaseled its way back to prime time.
Correct.
So, where's the outrage on that? That's okay. There's no limit. It's just, I don't know.
It's just funny that the more people try to get to be inclusive, the more they exclude more people.
Right.
So
right.
Here's the majority. Like here's the majority.
Right.
Fictitious number. You have 100 people. The majorities. I mean, and obviously majority would only be 51, but
right.
Here's 95 people that don't agree with this, but these 5 people, you need to be inclusive. Well, why you're being inclusive? Well, we got to start canceling these guys because they don't agree with this.
So,
and then we got to cancel this 30 because they don't agree with that.
Right. So we've made it cool for these 5, but we just 44. We just shot right out of here.
Right. Right. Now, so I have a couple things on our list, and we're Gen Xers, and we've talked about this on the show in the past.
And our generation, I don't want to say it wouldn't be fair to say it's a generation wide thing, but we are more from the fuck you standpoint,
and we always were.
Yeah.
And this is kind of my point. So, if you think about it, a bunch of music artists from our generation were the first of our time to try and be canceled. NWA.
Huh. Yeah.
The entire and the Christian people were like, I don't like this black music, this whatever, and they were trying to get them to stop them from selling the CDs.
Yeah.
And the parental warning on the thing is from our generation.
Right.
Now, in that same time frame, you had like 9 Inch Nails. You had these people that were doing Marilyn Manson.
Ice-T.
Right.
If you want to take it back even before the NWA with Fuck the Police.
Right.
Riots.
So
over a song.
Correct. And they weren't they weren't understanding the message of the song.
Right. And where is he now?
He's playing a cop on TV.
One of the most revered actors on TV today.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for about 20 years now.
But that's what I'm saying. So our generation came from the thing of like, hey, we don't care what you do.
Right.
You didn't care if people were, if you were white or Asian or black or Hispanic or gay or straight or whatever. It never mattered. That shit didn't matter. You had this freedom of that time. I hated the clothes, but you had the freedom of that time to all be under the same record label, but be 10 different types of music.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this. Right. And then they commingled.
Right.
And now it's like, no, I don't like that lyric in your song. You said this Fuck that. No, that song's got to be shut off.
Well, and that's funny you say that because that was another TikToker today brought up the point. Sam Hunt's going to be canceled using their logic. Sam Hunt will be canceled because he said something about. I could even have brought the artist wrong, but the lyrics were, "You said no, 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 but I say yes, yes, yes." Well, you're forcing yourself upon that person, so you're canceled.
Right. So,
or drink my love. Oh, so you're trying to get this person drunk, so you're canceled.
Right. The same week, there's a comedian that does it. The same week that they canceled "Baby It's Cold Outside," "Wet Ass Pussy" was the number one song.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, go figure that one
out.
The
same week.
Yeah.
You know, I think I should go. "Baby It's Cold Outside." I really can't stay. "Baby It's Cold Outside." And then they go through the lyrics, you know.
And then the lyrics are fucking "Wet Ass Pussy."
To the WAPs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
wild.
What? And you're like, this is what we're doing now. I don't like that, so that's got to go away because I like this.
Right.
And it's all being driven by social media.
Right. Listen, I talked about it on TCB when I reviewed Viva Las Vegas. The song "The Lady Loves Me," it's a back and forth between Elvis and Anne Margaret. She loves me not. I mean, literally the whole song is him saying something, she counters it. She says something, he counters it. The entire fucking song, the movie will be canceled.
Right.
Because of the lyrics of the song. Like, where does it stop?
I mean, it stops with "fuck you."
Right. Rub some fucking dirt on it and move on.
Well, you look at things. I mean, let's go back. The Salem witch trials, right?
Yeah.
We're going to burn some people that we just think are doing witchcraft. We don't understand what that is.
We don't know what it is, so we're going to kill you all.
We're going to kill. Right. So, right. I mean, like throughout history, people always been trying to quiet things they don't understand. But here's what would have been different. In the way it's thinking now, the Salem witches get their voice. Now, obviously, they shouldn't have been burned or whatever.
Right.
But they get their voice, and now everybody's got to believe in the stuff they do, or else you can't write a book.
Right. They're insanely right, and now we're all wrong because we don't believe in what they think.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
How about everybody has... Well, listen, I'm sure your fathers used the phrase. I know both grandfathers used the phrase, opinions like assholes, everybody has one.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You're entitled to it. But don't I may view differently, but just don't impress. Your opinion is your opinion. But don't impress it on everybody else because it may not be theirs.
Correct.
And that's where it should end.
Correct. You know, if I...
Cancel culture is more stifling than fucking... It's like a modern day segregation.
It is. But remember, we've had this conversation where George and Highland both like football.
Right.
We're together. We're at the table.
Yep.
Now we're going to just start taking steps backwards. What's your favorite team? Jets. Cowboys. Now here we are.
Right.
All right. They're in the AFC. We're in the NFC. They're in the Northeast. We're in the South. I mean, let's keep going. You know what I mean? Your quarterback wears number 12. Mine wears number 4. Your quarterback's a white guy. Our quarterback's a black guy.
Your team has a bunch of Super Bowls. Mine has 1.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, right. So before you have common ground where you both love football.
Right.
Now you're 75 steps away from each other going, just barking shit.
Fuck you.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing in society. I mean, and we use a simple term, but that's what you're doing in society.
Right.
Instead of saying we don't want homeless people, and we want our veterans to be taken care of, and we want everybody to have health care and a right to this free,
right.
Good stuff. Right? That's where everybody starts. Well, no, I think we should pay for people to have this.
I wish I could put this major university on blast only because I can't remember what university it was today. Again, it was a TikTok thing where the university came out with a thing of words that are acceptable, not acceptable to use in papers, whatever, at the university. You can't say grandfather anymore. It's your legacy.
Legacy. I know. I just saw it. Go ahead. Keep talking.
And there was that was the one was the legacy. And Fuck, that's the one that stuck out in my mind. I'm like, yeah, my legacy? No, that's my grandfather. Like 23andMe doesn't say, when I break down my family tree.
Stanford.
It was Stanford. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, legacy. No, that's my grandfather. Sorry.
Right.
Does the term grandfather really hurt somebody's fucking feelings? If it does,
grandfathered is something that hurts someone's feelings. Right. Grandfather.
If that hurts your
feelings,
does
father hurt certain feelings?
I'm sorry you feel that way, but I don't.
Right.
I'm not going to ask you to use the term grandfather if you don't want to, but I'm going to.
Right.
Right. Because there's nothing socially wrong with that. I'm not defaming somebody. I'm not fucking. It's not a racial slur.
Yeah. And how, here's the thing. This is where the conversation gets to, at what level do you start holding colleges accountable?
Right.
You know what I mean? At what level do you start going, absolutely not? This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you got to sit, it's so funny. Do you hear, when you get these people on and they straight face tell you that, this is, I just want somebody to be you are out of your fucking mind.
Right.
That is not normal. Go get yourself checked out at the psych center here.
Yeah.
They really come up with some outlandish shit that they're like, you can't say, whatever. Like you said, grandfather.
Yeah, I like the videos where a lot of these people get shut down with logic. Well, I identify as such and such. Okay, cool. Now I find you at an accident scene. You're unconscious, and I need to have a doctor needs to, or a medic needs to administer first aid to you.
Right.
And when you get to the hospital, they need to do this and do that. But the bottom line was, what's the word I'm for? Physically, you're a female.
Right.
I'm sorry, physically you're a male, but you're identifying as a female.
Right.
Okay, so when we get to the hospital, am I going to run a pregnancy test on you?
No, no.
But why is that?
But they will tell you that, they'll tell you that men can get pregnant.
I've never seen one to this day.
Right.
In 46 years.
I know. I'm just saying, but that's the mentality. How's that not mental illness?
Right. We've been told it's what is it? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results.
Correct.
It's some level of fucking craziness. And listen, again, we're not here to bash people. We're not bashing anyone. It's just the level of insanity with this. It has to come to an end. There has to be an end game. It has to stop.
Well, it has to come from a position of fuck you.
Right.
The people that have just kind of, you hear it in almost every walk of life, right? The people that kind of just go, I don't really want to be bothered with this, and push their cart by while somebody's throwing a temper tantrum or so. When they would go stand in front of traffic.
Right.
When that ends? When somebody comes from a position of fuck you and they grab a fucking cone. Have you seen that one? And the guy just fires the cone. And then as they fall out of the way, he goes, get the fuck out of the road. People got to go to work.
Well, how about the Miami rioters? Do you remember the riots in Miami a few years ago? Mm-hmm. Where these guys are throwing, the rioters are throwing fucking skateboards through the windshields of cop cars. They're throwing shit that's lit on fire at cop cars. At one point, the cops finally, fuck it, and drove right through. And ended up knocking a few people down.
Right.
You just endangered my life for the last hour.
You were trying to pretty much kill me. And I run through you, and then all of a sudden now
I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
No. You all should be in fucking jail. Because I need to do my job.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. And then they go to this level of, well, no, that's not right. That's, I just don't understand how you.
I wish our 60s protesters could come back and show them how it's done.
Well, they protested for the right stuff too,
and they were peaceful protests. Was there violence?
No, there was 100% because they burned down.
We had the Watts riots. We've had tons of shit.
Oh, dude,
go wrong over time.
You had the LA riots,
right? That was in our time.
Right. And what city did they burn down back in the day in the 60s? Detroit?
Oh yeah, Detroit. Yeah, and then Milwaukee. They fucked Milwaukee up pretty bad
Right.
recently.
Yeah.
With the George Floyd stuff.
They fucked up Oregon there. Portland?
Okay.
Right? Like and ultimately, at one point we had the sitting president of the United States or vice president
Right.
paying bail money to get rioters out.
Right.
What are we doing here?
Right. You're destroying your city for what?
Right. But
There's
this is cancel
ways.
culture because we don't like what you say, so we're going to cancel it.
Right.
I'm trying to pull it back from today in this. I had some of my examples were Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Salem witch trial stuff.
Right.
Rush Limbaugh. A lot of people didn't like what that guy had to say in the 90s, and they went after him hard. And then when he went after, he got thrown off of ESPN in 1 week. Remember that?
That's right. Yes, he did.
Over Donovan McNabb.
Yep.
He got tossed off of ESPN. Marilyn Manson, right after Columbine, they went after, because the people that went and shot up the school listened to Marilyn Manson, they went after Marilyn Manson.
Right.
And then Marilyn Manson said probably one of the best things, not best, but probably one of the most well thought out things. They were like, well, what would you say to those kids? He goes, I would listen to those kids. Their voice went unheard, like when they had concerns.
Clearly, there was a problem long before his music.
Right. But then I did read two things. University of Florida had to get rid of the Gator bait chant because they thought it was a racially charged chant of throwing somebody to the gator bait. Not like, hey, you're gator bait. Hey, University of fucking South Carolina, you're gator bait. We're eating you up today. No, it had to be, well, that's not right. That's racist or that's whatever.
Next year, the South Carolina is going to be the game penises.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the one, Herbie Husker from Nebraska, they canceled him.
The mascot?
Yeah. Because Herbie Husker in all of his things was like this. Okay, the okay symbol.
Which they say it's Klan, right?
They think it means white power.
White power, that's right.
And I'm like, that looks like a D and a W, if anything. I don't get it.
I don't either.
Like the okay symbol. That's how bad it is. The okay symbol.
That's been something for
a
million years.
If you go like this, it means asshole. I get it. But
do they? I wonder if on a Navy cruiser now, when planes are taking off, when they're going through their hand signals for the check, I always thought the N1 was for okay.
Yeah, like thumbs up.
Yeah. So white power?
I mean, I don't. It's just crazy. Charlie Sheen, after Tiger Blood, they went after him to cancel him. And if you listen to him,
he's retarded.
Well, he was. I mean, he was
right.
He admits it. He goes, "I was fucked up,"
Right.
But here he's back.
Good.
But because he can come from a position of fuck you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I had a few Kevin Hart with the Oscars when they didn't let him host it over something he said, a joke prior. George Michael, I want your sex. They went after that. I remember we were what, like 12 or 13 maybe when that song came out?
Yeah, that's about right.
And the video debuted on TV like after The Simpsons or something. And people lost their collective fucking minds.
Oh, that's funny.
And Madonna, Like a Prayer.
Right.
They went after that video because she was in a church with a black Jesus on the cross.
Yeah.
And they went after her heavily.
How about my man right over here?
Elvis was canceled for his hip shake, right?
Yeah,
they were arresting him.
He was a white man singing black music. Rock and roll was the devil.
Yep.
And there were, politicians coming on TV saying that he was brought to Steve Allen's show. That's why he had a thing. He didn't like performing in New York. He got over it later on. But he was left in a sour taste in his mouth because when he got brought on Steve Allen, he was told, and Sullivan did it the way Ed Sullivan had to do it. We're going to film you above the waist. That's what the network wants. But he still did his thing. He made Steve Allen, made him wear a tuxedo and sing to a hound dog, an actual fucking dog. And he couldn't move. He wasn't allowed to move. that's got to be one of the most awkward. I mean, why go on that show?
Right. Why do that?
Right. And he talks about it in the movie when he was told I forget what state it was in, where you get on stage, you wiggle anything, and we're yanking you off the stage.
And they did.
And he gets up on the stage and he puts the pinky up and he wiggles it, and the fucking crowd went nuts, and the police yanked him off the stage.
Yeah. But and what is it? A small group of people that do not like something in any way. So what do? This has to be stopped.
Yep.
This doesn't conform to what we want, so it's got to be stopped.
We don't know what it is. We don't support it, so it's bad and has to go.
Right. Like, I don't like I'm trying to think of like the music, like funk music. So what does that mean? They all just got to stop?
Right.
Because I don't like it? Guess what? Turn the fucking station.
Yeah, go find something else.
Find something else.
No,
it's that simple.
Instead, you got to go on all their Twitter pages and find something they said that was really awkward, really bad to you. So then you can go and say, I'm canceling you because you said that in 2011.
Right.
It's...
Well, Twitter in itself.
Right.
If Elon Musk didn't buy that, how many people were canceled? The fucking sitting president of the United States was thrown off of Twitter.
Right.
Think about that.
Right.
But we had, like, dictators still on the platform.
Go think, yeah, it's wild.
That were doing terrible shit to humans. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So how do you get to the bottom of it, or how do you overcome it? Do you have any other examples of? I know you were mad when you came in talking about this.
Yeah, just because of to me, it's so ludicrous. Like the whole Jimmy Fallon and blackface doing Chris Rock. Dude, think about back. We're big wrestling fans. What DX did, Nation Domination, yeah. And they came out in blackface.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
The Croc says.
So should WWE.
We had a movie when we were kids called Soul Man, where the dude took tablets.
Right. And
C. Thomas Howell.
Robert Downey Jr. did that whole movie. What was it, Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
In blackface.
Yep.
But
see, that's why I say comedians.
Wrestling's been under attack for years.
No. But circling back to Robert Downey Jr. for a second.
Right.
That's where I say comedians hold the flag of what should be acceptable or unacceptable.
Right.
Because they're the ones that kind of set the parameters. Like, they make fun of you for how ridiculous you're being about that situation.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
so where do you stop it? In essence, you're right. The rest of the people that are being affected by that cancel need to stand up and say, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
Who are you?
Right. It just has to come to that.
We're not attacking you. Why? I did nothing to harm you. If you don't like what I have to say or don't like me, turn the channel. Don't follow me on social media.
Yeah, we know people don't follow us.
Right, or don't like us.
But that's it. Guess what? Just, so what?
We're not everybody's cup of tea.
No.
Not everybody is everybody's cup of tea. How shitty would the world be if everybody was the same?
Oh, it'd be terrible.
How bland.
That almost makes me think, like, maybe you should get on somebody on your show that literally has a major problem with Elvis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Listen, Brandon jokes about it all the time with him and Priscilla. Different time, different place. She was an underage girl.
Yeah, I get it. And I was going to say, that's a big part of this thing.
Right.
You're trying to enforce today's mentalities on fucking something that's 100 years ago.
Right.
We're 40.
Right.
We're in our 40s. In the 80s. Oh, I mean, the 80s, fuck, that was 40 years ago. But in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Right.
10 years ago isn't the same as today.
Yeah.
So what? What's acceptable today wasn't acceptable 10 years ago, or was acceptable 10 years ago. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
So where do you get off that you're just going to, that's not acceptable today. We're done with that.
It'll come, it'll go. Everything is cyclical. Just people need to let people be.
And you gotta, that saying, that little clip of John Goodman saying that, it just made so much more sense to me. Like,
yeah.
You really have to come from that position. Fuck you. I'm not. And until people really stand up to do it, what are we going to have?
Right.
Is there any more examples that you had in your notes? Like anything that really stood out that irked you?
it irks me that universities, these is places of higher learning, are taking it upon themselves to tell me what terms I can and cannot use and what's socially acceptable and what's not socially acceptable. Listen, without going into detail, in our job world, things have changed and there are words that we cannot use and words we are asked to use in replacement of other stuff now. It changes because somebody might get their feelings hurt. If you're gonna have to worry about everybody's feelings getting hurt, we're just gonna be mutes at some point.
100%.
That's where it's going.
Penn State, I don't know what it is. Penn State just banned something. It was in the paper this week, and it was pretty crazy. I'm trying to think what there was an
coaches in locker rooms.
Jesus! Oh, you're canceled. You can't say that. Yeah,
that's what I mean. It's a joke, but
it was something in the school. It was crazy. It was something in the school that It was something along the lines of how you said grandfather.
Right.
Another college university doing this. Have you seen the video where the guy goes on he goes to, I'm going to say like a Spanish school or Mexico like people, and he's like, hey, is this offensive to you? And he's wearing like a sombrero and a poncho or whatever. And they're like, hell no, man, that's not offensive. And they laugh about it.
Right.
And then he's like on like Stanford University's campus or something. I wouldn't say it's Stanford, but it's a college campus, and they're like, that's racist and offensive. And it's like when you go to the root cause, hey, when we go to the Winnies, and we're gonna make fun of them, and they think that shit's funny. Here's one for you: Notre Dame. You heard that, right?
No.
They tried to cancel Notre Dame's Fighting Irish guy, saying it's the most racist, offensively racial thing. And in Notre Dame, the Irish priest of that,
mm-hmm.
and the collective, the oldest order of Irish whatever, were like, this is asinine. This can't be remotely true.
That guy?
Yeah. They brushed it off, like basically, for lack of a better term, fuck you.
Right.
And guess what? The Notre Dame Fighting Irish is staying.
Well, they're good Catholics. So
yeah.
Brushed off.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, they only went after him because they already got Chief Wahoo.
Well, they went after Chief Wahoo. They went after any native. So I didn't know this. The NCAA filed the thing that if you wanted to keep your name, you had to get the approval of the local Native American tribe.
Yep.
So that's why Florida State can stay. The Florida State Seminoles. They had a couple examples, but then that's why other teams outright changed their names to.
Here's a Penn State thing. This is a year or two old now. Section of the introduction rationale of the proposal reads as follows. Many terms in our lexicon carry a strong male-centric binary character to them. Terms such as freshman are decidedly male-specific, while terms such as upperclassmen can be both interpreted sexist and classist. Terms such as junior and senior are parallel to Western male father-son naming conventions, and much of our written documentation uses he/she pronouns. Instead, we will use first year, second year, third year, or fourth year when referring to students.
Are we? Come on. Come on. When does it end?
Right.
And so that could be the next part of this in another episode. Are colleges the problem?
They're attributing to it because you're not, listen.
They're trying to form, don't you think in the 70s, colleges tried the same shit until finally people were like, enough. And then you had the 80s where people were like, shut the fuck up and just stay over there, you weirdos. So
they're gonna have whatever. They've got their hands deep into your bank account, and they're going to tell you what you can say.
Well, or is this the agenda? Everybody has to go to college. You can't get a good job, and while we're at college, we're going to poison the well.
Listen, let's go back to COVID. How many times was what was the clown doctor that kept marching out in front of us?
Oh, Fauci.
Yeah, proven wrong.
Yeah. How many things did he say that were not remotely right?
Right.
And RFK goes after that guy.
How many of us took the vax?
Right. And then ultimately, you don't know what that's going to do to you. It might do more harm than good.
Right.
I can tell you this: I never got it until I took the vaccination, and I was in cars with people that had it.
Yeah.
Multiple people had it in the same car, and we didn't know. They all got sick. I was fine. Then I take the vax, and within a week I had it.
I got it before and after the vax. So
you did. You definitely had it before,
yeah.
And then you got it after. Because we got the vax the same day.
Right.
We shot a show
and went and got it.
And then went and got it.
Yep.
Or no, I had already gotten it, and then you went and got it.
Right. And I've had breathing issues since getting the vax. This past fall, and I ended up was basically it wasn't coming through. I always tested negative for COVID, tested positive for strep, but for some reason I needed 2 rounds of steroids and an inhaler to get through it.
For strep. Yeah.
So
listen, I know we're not the pictures of health, but at the same time.
Right. Come on.
Yeah. But that's it. If you spoke against that, done. They ran you right off the table.
Sure did.
Right off the table. If you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying.
And we've seen the same news footage where every newscaster is reading the same actual dialogue.
Yes. If that is not like
mind control.
Yeah, mind control. But I was thinking like propaganda.
It is straight propaganda.
Yeah. And then the same people that release the virus are the same people that have the fucking vaccine.
Right.
It's just, It's so wild. But how do you stop that?
Right.
People, and how did it finally stop? People said, fuck you, I'm not staying in my house anymore.
Right.
Enough.
Yeah.
Until people finally should the episode be called Fuck You? It probably should, but it's not going to be.
We got past the rhetoric, we got past the fear we were told we needed to have.
Right.
So now you add the ability to control the narrative and throw in your slant with your cancel culture, and you have a dangerous society.
Very dangerous. Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, a very dangerous
But
society.
what happened is I think they found the resistance that they weren't expecting.
Right.
And when people finally said, F you.
How many people were cursing Ron DeSantis?
Yeah.
Because he would not close down Florida.
Right. And then ultimately it ends up being the best decision.
Yep.
You know? And their numbers collectively weren't as bad as states that were like full closed.
Right. When were his numbers bad? His numbers were bad during spring break.
Of course, because you had tons of people going down there because it was free
and gathering in mass amounts in a close area. But you look at the rest of the state, and that's an isolated incident.
Right.
Look at the rest of the numbers throughout the rest of the state.
Well,
no worse or no better.
They tried to cancel Joe Rogan. Remember when he got the Spotify deal and they went after him? They were going to kick him off Spotify because he had this on his, on his podcast or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he got COVID, fucking CNN yellowed out his stuff and said he was taking horse tranquilizers, and it had nothing to do with that.
Right.
And it's just so funny. That's their way of canceling you, is by shutting you up. God forbid you say something that we don't want to hear, and that's dangerous.
Our buddy Portnoy calling out Roger Goodell in the NFL.
Right.
And he's
banned he's banned from. Remember they dragged him out of the Super Bowl.
Right. They tried like hell to fuck with Barstool.
Right. And shut him up. And all it did is, when people come from the position of fuck you.
Yeah.
When Gen Xer said, fuck you, we're listening to our music. Put your little sticker on it. We're still listening to it.
Right. I'm buying it. It doesn't matter.
Right. That's when you win, and that's how this stops.
Right.
So maybe we're the ground. Maybe we're the groundswell that needs to start.
Yeah. It's. Listen, again, if you have a legitimate point and you are trying to better society by getting rid of an ill,
right,
we're all for it.
Right.
We're behind you. But if you're trying to censor me because I like Elvis Presley or you like 9 Inch Nails,
right,
fuck you.
Yeah, 100%. and it should be that way.
Right.
You know,
It's just not right. Listen, if you had if everybody that you had a disagreement with, when after you tried to cancel you, you'd been canceled 100 years ago. Before you were born, you'd been canceled.
Everybody.
That's right.
Oh, that kid's crying. Don't. Yep, you're canceled. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just how it is.
Sometimes you just got to rub some dirt on it, keep it moving. It is what
I don't
it
disagree.
is. I don't have to like what everybody says. They don't have to like what I say. But we got to live our lives.
You have to, and it just comes to a point where, me personally, I feel like if I'm beyond that stuff, I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. Shut up. Oh, well, you don't. Too bad.
Right.
Oh well. Okay. It's not the first time you're going to be mad at me. It's not the last.
That's right.
Oh well. Move on. And you come from a position of fuck you, and we don't have the money to come from that position.
No.
But if you can literally have the mentality of it,
right,
it frees you to all the other stuff.
Right. And again, we don't discuss a lot of politics. We never have, but we're in an era now where really do some due diligence, do some research, pay attention who you're casting your vote for, because that is going to be the way that maybe we can get shit pointed back in the right direction.
And this all stems off of this thing, because I said they are going to cancel RFK.
Right.
And then the hit pieces will come out. Once you can't silence them, then the hit pieces will come out. He said this in 1989.
Sure did.
He went out there with this person. He had a marriage. He had an extramarital affair. So X, Y, and Z. Then the hit pieces come out. So that's how they're going to cancel him.
Right.
And that's the game that gets played, unless you can come from a position of...
Right. When you can sit back and say, you know what? I did that.
Yep.
Oh, well.
Right.
That was then, and now's today.
I grab him by the pussy. And when you can do that, and I mean, we laugh about it. Right. It is locker room talk. Shut up. When you just discard it, yo, shut up. It made what you see on TV and the shit you see and the way people talk. That's not how real people talk. Real people talk that dumb shit. But on TV, it's like not everything is scripted. Not every punctuation's right. I don't speak at a fucking college graduate level.
Nor would I say the shit I say if I was giving the commencement speech at a college graduation.
Correct.
Because you know decorum and you know time and place.
Right.
And that's what they feed on. They feed on taking away time, place, and context.
Right. Well, dude, 100 times in this show, say hour show that we just did,
yeah,
people could cut this and make it look the worst.
Oh, we're awful.
And not even realize that you're referencing something.
Right.
And then you're saying how the outcome turned over.
Right.
They could be like, oh, he said people that have kids, fuck you. No, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you don't realize that that's not what was said at all.
Not at all. Not even a little bit.
It's saying, you know what I mean? So I just...
Think for yourself.
Think for yourself. But ultimately, the only way this stuff is going to end is if the people that go about their everyday life and just ignore it,
right,
just ultimately say, F you.
Yep.
We're done.
Just like Public Enemy said, fight the power.
Yeah. No, good episode, man. Nice. I mean, the context was not like a normal show, but it was a good conversation to have.
Listen, and I hope people...
And look up some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And TikTok might get canceled.
Right.
And why? Because they can't control it.
Do your due diligence and do your fact checking and just examine stuff a little bit and see how ridiculous some of this stuff really, really is. Yeah,
because I mean, it gets very crazy.
There was one thing that was from the past, and you said, had I found anything? Disney.
Yeah.
Walt Disney himself. Song of the South.
Yes. They went after that. It was rabbits, was it not?
It was, yeah. I mean,
Briar Rabbit or the Briar Patch.
Yeah, the Briar, and it was viewed as being heavily, and by today's current standards, yes, correct.
I'm sure.
But when it came out, it was a different time and a different place.
Right.
Should it have been taken down? Absolutely. But they took it down and it went away, and it's gone now. And Walt Disney is still allowed to be the happiest place on earth.
Correct. Can you imagine if South Park didn't come from the position of fuck you?
Dude, or Family Guy.
Family Guy. Like, they say shit that's so outlandish, but you know why? Because comedy should be the flag carriers
Right.
of what's, like, what is okay and what is over the line. Because if you can't joke about it, and you can't, if they're not making fun of you about it and showing you how, obnoxious you're being over it,
Right.
then it probably really is a problem.
Right. And that's comedy. And it's in a nutshell. Was taking the absurd and pointing it out.
Yep.
And Carlin, if he was alive, I can't imagine what his acts would be like today.
Well, you even seen somebody like...
He'd be canceled, honestly.
Yeah.
He would definitely be canceled.
Well, you even seen a guy like Bill Maher, who was
Right.
a far left. All of a sudden, they wanted him canceled
Right.
because he wasn't agreeing with their statements.
Yep.
And far rights try to do it too. I get it. And that's not political. It's just in general. Like, grow some balls. Let's just... Until the quiet people finally are like, we've had enough. Just shut up.
How many channels on Sirius? A couple hundred?
Oh, yeah, 300.
Yeah, find one you like and stick to it.
Yeah,
that's all I can tell you. Find one you like.
Right.
Just because you don't like the one I listen to, listen to a different one.
Yeah. You like deep tracks? Cool. I like lithium.
And I'm staying on the Elvis channel.
Yeah. All right, man. I got nothing else, buddy.
All right, pal. For Gmac, this is Winnie. This has been the Livelihoods podcast. And as always, fuck you. And take it easy.